Well, for the debugger to actually catch, you first have to open up the Chrome JavaScript console. I can do this on a Mac by using Command Option I, or by simply navigating to the toolbar, looking under the Tools menu, and going to JavaScript console. As you can see here, the console's loaded in the bottom, but since our page is already loaded, there's no debugger to catch. Let us try to refresh the page and see if the debugger will catch. As you can see here, in our code, the debugger stopped execution at line 19. To actually play around with the execution context of our draw function and inspect what our data is and what variables are in scope, let's navigate to the console tab of the debugger. Inspecting some of the variables, just for a sanity check, we can print out data and see that we have 836 data points. Opening up this array, we can inspect what each object looks like. In this case, we see attendance, date, goals, and so forth. So every property of this object represents one of the columns of our data set. But this might be hard to see if we want to inspect our entire data set, since we have to open up every one of these objects individually. A little trick of the Chrome debugger is it has a utility function called .table that we can call like we call console.log. This is very similar to console.log, but rather than just printing the naive string representation of a variable, if the variable is in some collection, be it an array, JSON, or what have you, the table function instead prints out a nicely formatted spreadsheet in the console window. Let's go ahead and call console.table on our data array. This takes a second since we have so many data points, but if you can see here, console.table has printed out all of our data in a nice tabular format that's easy to scroll and inspect. Scrolling to the top of this, we can see what the field names are, in this case, attendance, goals, penalty kicks, referee, stadium, and so forth. And we can also see here that we have the year, the time, and the date. You might want to be careful with the console.table function, since as you noticed, it took a second to load. This can get quite unwieldy and potentially crash your browser if you try it with a large data file. As you can see, the structure is similar to what we mentioned in the quiz, and all the columns should be identical. The variables of interest here are the year column and the attendance column. How might we best represent attendance as a function of year? Remember what we mentioned when choosing a chart type. We need to think about our data types of our variables in the abstract sense. I don't mean what JavaScript type they are. And also we want to think about what type of relation between attendance and year we want to convey.